everyone. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Redefining Recruitment. We have our president of Twice as Nice Recruiting, Patrick Cahill, with us today. Patrick, how are you?
Doing great over here. Thanks, Megan.
Awesome. And of course, we have Caralie Coleman, our VP of Search at Twice as Nice Recruiting. Caralie, how are you?
Hello. No complaints.
No complaints. That's always a great place to be. All right. So regardless of what industry you're in, your brand's image carries a heavy weight. And of course, we know that when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to connecting with other businesses or even clients, but your brand's image can have a pretty big impact on recruitment that can help or hinder your recruitment strategy. But we're going to talk about what you can do to harness your brand's image and maybe overcome some of those negatives you might be facing when it comes to recruitment and your brand's image. But first, let's get to know each other. We are Twice as Nice Recruiting, and we do one thing. That's permanent placement recruiting. We build every single search from scratch. We have a 9.9% placement fee, and we guarantee your placements for 18 months. We've worked with more than 1,800 clients to fill roles across the board, and today, we're redefining recruitment. Caralie, I'm curious if you've seen a company's image actually impact their recruitment.
I definitely have. And a thing that really pops into my head when I think about this is just the few times that we've seen clients who have unfortunately terrible employee reviews online that they're really unable to overcome because they just haven't accepted the fact that the feedback is true. And it really makes hiring difficult because if you're blind to your own issues, new people coming in generally aren't going to be interested in joining your team.
Patrick, do you have any stories or have you seen this with other clients or other companies?
Absolutely. And usually the more senior and experienced the individual company's trying to hire, the more impact the reviews can have. Just usually when someone's thinking about a significant career shift, they are diving in and looking at how is a company operating, how are they treating its customers through Google reviews, how are they treating employees through the Glassdoor, Indeed reviews, but also when we get into really niche fields, sometimes it's even the reputation the company has on delivering the work it's doing, especially when you look at sales roles. Individuals who are really experienced in sales are going to definitely consider the reputation a firm or brand has in that space as they think about what's my ability to sell. And we see sometimes that impacting the package that needs to be put together to attract talent.
I could see how a brand's image could impact a candidate's ability to actually do their job. So I'm curious, Patrick, when it comes to image, what are some things companies should be aware of? I'm assuming it can even be like some little things can really send a big message to candidates.
Absolutely. And every candidate's different, and they're looking for different clues, sometimes just based on personality, sometimes based on an anecdotal experience that's now changing how they evaluate future employers. But the low-hanging fruit, I guess, or I should say the most obvious fruit, maybe it's not necessarily easy to change depending on the situation, are your employer reviews. And so I think sometimes employers feel like those don't reflect our organization, so I'm not going to pay attention to them. And sometimes employers are correct in that it's a very small fraction of unhappy, disgruntled team members who may not have been the right hires to begin with that leave these reviews. And the challenge is that people thinking about working at that company, they may have actually left reviews as well, to get access to these reviews. And so they think of themselves as being someone who's a normal individual who left a normal review for their past employer. And they are then using those reviews to evaluate the potential. And employers thinking that they're not really that important, then they don't think about an engagement strategy to entice or encourage employees who are having maybe a more typical experience to interact with those review sites. And there could be a number of motivations why employers don't want to do that beyond just hey, it doesn't matter. But the reality is that you need to engage with these sites once you're on them. And you may not choose whether or not your company's on them. But once they're on them, it is going to be a challenge, especially because these sites have such a significant kind of Google presence. So when people are Googling your company, not only are the reviews themselves not always great, but that little star rating next to your company name on the top 10 results of the page can really influence how a candidate considers. So Google reviews are one. Even just how you're actually positioning your emails and your notes to candidates. How professional are they? How focused are they? Are you outlining the process? Are you following through with what you say you're going to do? These small examples can really help a candidate determine whether or not they're excited and wanting to work in your organization.
I would assume as well that if there are some of these negative reviews, you might have to kind of pay the piper a bit, cough up some change to kind of get some of this top talent. It might be more expensive for employers if they're trying to attract and retain some of this top talent. Is there, in addition to kind of an uphill battle with recruitment, is there a financial burden as well if you have a lot of negative reviews?
Yes, is the short answer. I think the challenge though is sometimes in a number of industries, it's a little bit more complicated in that top talent may think long term. It's what makes them such great team members. And unless they also hear that there's a reason why those reviews are not an accurate reflection of the organization, and they don't, they have to hear what's going to change to make sure that those reviews are not going to be their future. um, you're going to have trouble just making the money make the difference. So yes, you might end up having to pay more as a candidate's weighing their options across a number of different offers. And I would agree 100% that if there are two same job offers from two similar companies and one has a very positive online image and one has a questionable or negative online image, you're going to have to do something to get that candidate to even consider them as equal options. And the offer is one of those things. But the challenge is also before you even get to the offer stage, candidates will just opt out of the whole recruiting process with that organization. So it can be really challenging where you might not even get to the point where you can actually persuade someone that something is changing, or you know it's not that common, but there are organizations that say, yes, those reviews were valid, and here's what we're doing to change it, and we appreciate you've put the time to research us. That's the type of talent we want, and we also want you to know that we are digging in and trying to fix some of these issues that team members past and present have identified in the organization. So it's a major factor, and that's why I kind of corrected earlier saying, well, it's not low-hanging fruit, it's just in your face fruit. But it's really critical to attracting talent and getting them all the way to signed offer.
So, Patrick, we've talked a lot about reviews. I'm wondering if there's anything else that employers can do to kind of boost their image for candidates.
Absolutely, especially maybe you're a smaller employer and you don't have a lot of employees to ask to write reviews, so candidates are often very eager to know what they're about to walk into when it comes to interviewing and then potentially for their next step in their career. And so they're going to be looking for just examples of what is the culture in this organization, how much life energy is there. And so you want to make sure, is the website up to date? Is it professionally done? Is there a news page where the last time a news item was updated was 6 years ago? Social media, while it may not be critical to your organization from a customer facing standpoint, it can show a little bit about, hey, we're here and we're doing stuff. And so you might want to just make sure if you have a Facebook page that occasionally it gets some love. On LinkedIn, Caralie, I think you had some ideas on just how to professionalize LinkedIn image for some smaller employers.
Yeah, it can be super helpful to actually claim that page and build it out so it has information about your company, but also make it so that your current employers and yourself, or employees and yourself, that you guys have it linked properly on your own LinkedIn so that it's all coming together. So if someone's trying to see the team, they can easily click in one spot and see everyone who's currently working there.
How can a recruitment firm then help a company hire, even if they do maybe have a negative image or maybe some of these negative reviews online? Carolee, I'll ask you first. What comes to mind to kind of help a company hire if they do have a negative image online?
Good question. And one thing that recruiters can do is they can help tell the story behind the brand or behind the image that you're finding online, and can really help to address the elephant in the room by covering what the company is doing to fix the items that are mentioned in those negative reviews. So it kind of gives that middleman opportunity to try to maybe smooth over some of that negativity that's out there.
One or two negative reviews in a sea or lake or pond of a general variety of reviews, I think is just the expected mix. that an organization is going to have. Not every team member is going to love being part of the team. And mistakes are made. And so I think people have come to expect there are going to be some negative reviews. In fact, research shows that if there are only positive reviews, it actually creates suspicion and can be an issue if there are only 5-star reviews. But I think how a recruiter can help is, one, bring up that this is a real issue. And so I guess this video could serve that purpose. But two, share there are simple ways, just based on experience working across organizations, to engage with existing team members and ask for them to provide their honest feedback and input on what it's like working both within the organization, internal feedback, but also, would you be open to sharing that with the world so we can find more and more colleagues we're all going to be excited about working with? And then I think the third way a recruiting firm can help, kind of what Caralie shared, is by getting in front of it. Because seeing negative reviews, especially when they're consistent and sustained, can be really scary for a candidate. And so if we can talk to the client, understand if changes are going to be made, what those changes are, and then talk to the candidate, hey, we do see ourselves presenting you to the client. By the way, this is the client. You probably will notice that there have been some issues with the old management. Good and interesting news. Management's changed over in the past few months, and they are recognizing some of these issues that's caused the turnover situation that they're currently trying to remedy. Here's the background of the new management. We're really excited about the long-term potential. That's why we partnered with them. We think that you might be excited about this too, and just want to make sure you understand the bigger picture, that there's something new happening that's not fully reflective of what you're going to see when you start doing your research. And I think that's, still some candidates will be a little nervous and maybe decide, it's not for me. I don't like being part of change, while other candidates will see this as an opportunity to get into an organization that's going to have an exciting, near and long-term future.
So it sounds like a recruitment firm can really help kind of tell the story, exactly like what Caralie said, tell the story behind the brand and the brand image, and kind of give that explainer to candidates about why they may be seeing what they are seeing online and what the company's doing to fix that. When candidates are just interacting with the company themselves, it might be a little suspect. We may not fully trust them, but with a third party in place, you can feel like the recruiter's kind of on your side and the candidate side, and they're trying to find something that fits for everyone and works well.
But the challenge is, you want to make sure that you really have your interests aligned with the recruiting partner that you work with, and make sure that this is not a short-term solution. An example being, a lot of recruiting firms have, a 90-day guarantee. And so if you get a recruiting firm that's a little too eager to share too positive of a story, then you could find yourself hiring someone thinking you've solved this problem, and very quickly that person is going to be looking for their next opportunity. And depending on the recruiter, it may be to their benefit that that person 92 days later is looking for a new opportunity, because they might be able to actually monetize on that dissatisfaction with the firm. So you want to be really careful to make sure that the solution is a genuine long-term fix and rooted in long-term alignment, and not on I can pay these guys to trick someone to come in here and hopefully it'll work out, because likely that won't work out. And the wrong recruiting firm with the wrong motivations can be very convincing and push something the wrong way. So it just would be a concern on how are you approaching fixing this problem.
And that's part of the reason why at Twice as Nice Recruiting we have an 18-month guarantee, because we want it to be a long-term solution and be fully aligned. We also have a webinar that we can link down below in the comments that talks about negative reviews and why they may not all be bad. And that can be really helpful for a lot of employers, I think. But thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you, Caralie. This was all really informative, and we hope that businesses can take a lot of this information and create a better recruitment strategy. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Redefining Recruitment.